Welcome to Flex That Worx, a podcast for anyone building, managing, or growing a flexible workspace without making things more complicated than they need to be. If you're running a single co-working space, juggling multiple locations, or overseeing a growing network of spaces across towns or cities, this is your space. It's for the operators, the managers, decision makers, the people doing the work to make these places run. This is Flex That Worx, scaling your workspace made simpler and less stressful. See you in the episode. Hello and welcome to Flex That Worx, powered by Baseworx. You're here with me, Anne-Marie, and Graham, CEO of Baseworx. Today we're going to chat about community. So mainly when you hear the word community, what comes to mind? What's the first image? Be it a flex space, co-working space that you operate. What happens if the image that's come into your mind is actually totally wrong for your members? Maybe that's something that's evolving and shifting, and maybe different spaces have very different ideas about what community means. Graham, you've run your own space. You've seen a lot of spaces in action. What's your initial take on community?
I think it's a word that's after being absolutely pulled apart and put back together as an absolute marketing ploy in a lot of instances. I think that it's one of those words that it said so much. If you sit there and you say one word over and over again, it loses meaning. It's effectively what's happened with the word community in co-working in my mind. When we all worked traditionally in normal offices, right? You didn't go to work in a place because there was community. For a lot of people, I think, look, again, co-working, and it was a collaboration of a number of small companies working in a space. Like-minded, like, again, co-working in its sense kind of naturally attracted entrepreneurs, self-starters, self-employed. I remember we had a chat with that chap in Slovenia who had that like really community-focused space. When I ran my space, that was very much the type of people it attracted, just because there was that startup ecosystem. And everybody's on, I hate to use the word journey because it sounds like we're all like heading off the water or something like that, but we're all in the same kind of position. You all have a common ground and interest to talk about, which is what's your idea, what are you working on, all that kind of stuff. Evolution of co-working now means that there's a different worker type has been brought into the mix. Basically, you now have larger companies, staff from larger companies coming in. You even see it in our own co-working space here, Anne-Marie. People from Dell, people from KPMG. These people would never have worked or frequented co-working spaces in the past. Community is not their thing, like.
They didn't choose one of the big four for community.
You know what I mean? So
Question.
Yeah.
For operators who are very busy, and we know how many hats they wear, and people who run flex-based businesses, they're managing multiple locations and sites, how much of their time and headspace should they be putting towards community from what you've seen in what you could code as a successful space?
See, again, like, define what community is. Is it events? Is it just the natural atmosphere or crack that goes on in a space? For me, our space here, if you're sitting in a booth, someone walks past, they'll generally give you a wave, even if you're on a call. That's nice. Like, when I walk in the morning and I have to walk past people, hey Graham, how are you? I'm like, hey, how are you, John? How are you? Finn. You mightn't even get that if you were working if you all had the same name at the top of your payslip. That for me is community. And where we work here, it's a seasonal place, right? And you're going to see July and August down here. It's going to be full with randomers, seasonal people that are down in their holiday homes or they're after booking an Airbnb for a few days. And they'll squeeze in a bit of work while they're down here, down west. And you'll see, like the people that work from here are south. Like, how we do down in the holidays? Yeah. What is it you do yourself? That's your community in action, actually promoting the space. These people will be back next year again because that's full of nice people. So I think community for me is like a place full of nice people where you can actually just have a bit of chat. It's not events. It isn't about making a community manager look busy.
So do you believe that the operator drives community or the members drive community?
I think the operator decides the type of operation they want to have, and they put the things in place to endorse or promote community. And that could be down to design, nice open communal areas. I think the kitchen, like where the fridge and the coffee machine and all that kind of stuff. I think that's the most important part of any co-working space. If you wanna, you see yourself. Even today, we were all in for lunch. We were all sitting around having a banter. We all work in different industries, different businesses. Sitting down breaking bread with someone, like, that's one of the oldest forms of community. It's one of the most primitive forms of community. And again, that's one of the attractive parts of co-working. People can work from anywhere now, absolutely anywhere. Your space has to provide a compelling enough reason for somebody to get out of their pajamas, get into a car, or get on a bike and make their way into your space and pay a bill to do it. It's very easy to sit at home, set up at the kitchen table if you have an empty house, and get going and do a bit of work. You have to provide more than just a chair and a desk in a lot of instances. I'm actually talking about me. Other people, I just want to go in and get my work done. I don't care about your event. I don't really want to network with anybody. I just want to go home. And that's okay too.
Something I think about often is how can we best let members self-select the level of community that they want within a space? Is there anyone that you've seen doing it really well? Is it something that just naturally happens under strong leadership? Because I know for us in our space, there are WhatsApp groups with polls. It's up to you if you opt in or out. There's potluck, there's events on.
Yeah.
There's no pressure. If you want to stay at your desk while the potluck is on, there's absolutely no pressure. Some people might go for pints after work together. There's no pressure to go or not go.
There's not enough pints after work. That's what I if there was a poll on.
Not enough work before pints, probably.
Well, I give an example of what I loved this week. All right, was in fairness, like the guys here, they're like suggestion boxes, all that kind of good stuff. That's a nice. I've never put anything in it, but no,
you like to have the option.
Like to have the option, right? And in fairness, like recently there they did a bit of a pulse check, like what are we doing right, guys? What are we not doing right? That kind of way. And it was all anonymous, and that's great. What I loved this week was I think there was an issue with somebody eating somebody's stuff in the fridge, so it was like
Ross with the post-it on his sandwich.
So it was like, can you please not eat other people's stuff? There was a WhatsApp went out with a poll on it. Would you like to have lockers in the kitchen? And 20 people came back and were like, no. There wasn't one yes. The team here were trying to improve what we're doing, trying to improve the space. Communities come back and save them a fortune on hassle and money, and we're just like, nah. It's having that instant feedback loop that you can get as well, and you see yourself. I mean, it's all very casual in here again, and that works for us, Amory. And again, it all comes back. And I keep banging the drum about this, and it's probably going to wind people up, but it's all about knowing your market, knowing your people. All you can do is provide a place that gives them spaces to interact. You can do that deliberately, as I said. Good kitchen, good lunchroom, breakout spaces. If you've enough room for a breakout space, maybe think about putting a meeting room in there. If somebody wanted to tell me how a breakout space should work, I'd love to hear more of that, but I've yet to see one work as the mock-up images that the designers put together before the space is launched. I've yet to see one work like they're supposed to work.
What do you think best enables kind of organic connections within a space? I'm thinking about like the communication channels like we've talked about. If that's WhatsApp, if that's a Slack, we've got a directory within Baseworx and a news feed that people can stay up to date with what's going on in the space. People can dip in and out as they want to. I think freedom to dip in and out. And I think desks where, like, if you've got a dedicated desk, somebody is in a dedicated office maybe every day of the week, and somebody's popping into the dedicated desk 5-6 times in the month, they still feel part of it because you're catering to the different profiles of people and allowing people to use the space flexibly, and they still feel like they belong.
Exactly. I mean, even this afternoon, as an example, myself and yourself were making a coffee inside in the kitchen. In came David. David works for a company downstairs in an own-door office. We don't see David the same we'd see people around the floor that we're on and the dedicated desk. But again, you said we had a bit of crack about the Christmas party way back. Again, Dave is still very much part of the community, even though they're behind a closed door. And
it's that space design, the composition of the space as well, kind of allowing that chance interaction. I know you're saying you don't see as much value in the breakout spaces, but I think maybe also that's down to the age profile of your members as well, because I have been in spaces where they do have these kind of hodgepodge places where you can perch around the place, and I think different even work styles and learning styles and things appreciate the ability to just get up and move and potter around a little bit too within one space and still be kind of connected. One place that I was in Manchester, they had this little cubby with a heavy curtain that you pull over and it's your quiet zone. They said it's incredibly popular when the kind of social area becomes very buzzy. And then you
Yeah.
have some personality types that absolutely love being stuck in the middle of that buzz. And
Yeah.
people have the ability to dip in and out because the operator of the space is taking care of that facility. They're making all of that available, that it's not one or the other.
And that's exactly it. You kind of nailed it. And like, you can take or leave what you want from a space. You touched on something there without realizing there's neurodiversity and how people are wired. Some people work better in the morning, some people work better in the evening, some people work, 9 to 5 is their bag, and some people like to work with their headphones on and Metallica going. You know what I mean? And other people just like absolute silence. Even here, like small things like having the radio on in the background, just that kind of dull noise that's gonna break in that film of silence. I've been in spaces where they're like libraries, and everybody's encouraged to talk and go to booths if they want to open their mouth, and then everybody goes around whispering like this because everybody's afraid. So to break the silence, and everything, you drop a pen on a desk and everybody's looking around, and that's actually more disruptive than if there was a bit of noise going on, because it's nobody takes any notice. And again, that's all down to design. So I think what I'm saying when it comes to community is design for it, encourage it, and communicate would be it. But again, stay authentic with it. You'd be at an event in a co-working space, and the event may not be well attended, but we all need the photos for the gram. So can everybody just tuck up into the corner there, and we'll box everybody in, and then I can stick it up on LinkedIn, I can stick it up on Instagram, let everybody know that we have this buzzing community, and my stakeholders and my bosses know that I had a really successful event. That's not it. Like, that's not what
It's
all about.
not, but equally, maybe that's where it starts. And if it's a smaller space kicking off and they've got a good, strong community and a small group of people, that's the other side of it too. I think the biggest thing with community, from what I can see, is authenticity. If it's genuine and it's a small group or a big group and it's genuine, then it's going to survive and it'll probably flourish. I see as well, because like when we be chatting to spaces about tech, this idea that you want to get rid of the tour, right? And you're bringing new people in, and a lot of places aren't kind of hot desking anymore. You want to at least make the tour more time efficient.
Yeah.
And the more people I speak to, particularly a woman from South Africa who's got about 70 clients coming into her space for outdoor offices, multi-story building outside Johannesburg. And she was sharing that she still meets every single person who's going to come into the space. And there's this level of, like, we were talking about on a previous episode about what systems can allow you to do, and what having good, clean processes that aren't eating up all your time can allow you to do. And I think that's one key step that probably does need to stay human-led in order to kind of protect the community aspect.
I'm a big fan of putting the human in at the right point of the transaction. And again, that all depends. If it's a hot desk, you don't need a human until you turn up at the door. And sometimes you don't even need a human there if you have access control. But to that lady's point, yeah, I mean, if they're going to be coming in, taking offices, and they're going to take up a good chunk of her building and her business, then she needs to be very wary that they're a right fit, because they impact culture. And when you start throwing more businesses that come with their own culture into the mix, that can have a detrimental effect. I chatted to a co-working space similar to that. Now, they were more dedicated desks was their thing. They didn't really do hot desks. What happened was there was this business came in, 5 or 6 dedicated desks taken, brilliant, corner of the co-working space taken up, and they expanded to 10. They got funding, then expanded, and then they're up, I think, in the end with about 25 desks out of, they had 80. So they were a good chunk of the business. And unfortunately, what happened for the space then is this company, all the meeting rooms were taken up, and it was all this company's name. Great to see the space being used, but it was hard then for single desk users to kind of get a place to have a meeting, or bring a client to have a meeting, that kind of stuff.
That lack of balance.
That lack of balance. And what happened then is this business, I don't want to say they became arrogant, but they kind of began to run the place. So I got to the stage where on a Monday they'd all actually stand at the back of the co-working space. They'd have their weekly stand-up. So everybody knew what the business was doing. So look, eventually they did move on. But then, as the operator, you're back to 25 empty desks and need to be filled. I'd say people were about to leave. Like, there's that. It's like who blinks first, who's going to go first, So that's one way, is like that cultural exposure that you need to be wary of. And it was funny, actually, one of the tours we did in Manchester, one of the chaps giving us a tour of a great, lovely space, lovely setup, actually. Every floor was almost a carbon copy of the next, but they all had own offices, like, so it's surrounding a central kitchen dining area, if you like, and it was booths and a bit of a breakout area. But like that, he said, we don't like to take on certain size once the business gets to a certain size. And I asked him, I said, is that for cultural reasons because of the experience I'd seen in this other space, or is it for, business? He said, it's mostly business, but culture as well. He said, like, culture in our place probably wouldn't be as important here because everybody is behind their own door, and they had more of a hospitality spin on what they did as well. So again, you kind of have the business exposure aspect of it, but then also the cultural exposure aspect of it. So it's when does a client become too big?
And the commitment to, as an operator, of course, getting your bills paid in a consistent way from a brand that, is pretty dependent on your space, obviously would feel like a positive. So having to nudge that business along, to your point, put yourself back in a position of trying to fill those spaces, all for commitment to the culture. Like, you need to be pretty clear on the roadmap for your space, don't you? And where you want it to end up within a couple of years, because that's a key decision. Like, if you're going to be prioritizing culture and community over getting the bills paid in the short term.
I suppose it's one of those things. The only way to solve that is have a waiting list. Never stop marketing. I presume, like, when you get to a stage where your space is 95% to 100% full, the natural thing is, dial back the marketing and sales a bit, and there's room for complacency there. So what you could kind of say, to keep it tipping away anyway. Try get a bit of a waiting list. Keep an eye on your contracts when they're going to come up. Have reminders going off 90, 30, 60. 120 days, whatever it may be, so you can start having those conversations as early as possible to see if people are going to move on or stay, if there needs to be some contract negotiations done, if they want to get bigger. I think we took that away from Manchester. At one stage, there was a lady speaking about how she managed to grapple one of her clients back that were about to jump ship. So again, that's all about communicating with your clients, with your users, with your people.
Staying really close.
And in order to have that space to do that, you need good processes, you need good systems.
Yeah. And it's like, we speak an awful lot about marketing spaces, about occupancy, about funnel, and how many, how people are finding new business and getting them in. And this is the piece of it, I guess, about community as a leverage point, and not shoving it down people's throats, but at the same time having something tangible enough that you can create that demand off the back of it, and that people actually want to come into space. Because at the end of the day, we can talk about AI and stuff all day long, but it's human to human. And if I didn't feel comfortable working in this place and it wasn't enjoyable, and if there was any element of negativity, I would just work somewhere else. And it's interesting how if you're in a rural place, you're catering actually to a far broader audience. And I think operators in rural places have to take into account this broad spectrum. Like ourselves here, West Cork, we're down on a peninsula. There's a whole spectrum of types of people working in this place, so that the operators here are taking that into account. And then if you're in a city, urban area, you actually have the capacity to really kind of niche down and go pretty narrow on it, I think.
There's always a common denominator. What brings us all here? Because we all like living in the sticks, we all like living by the sea. Good community managers, good space managers will almost run their space like a wedding hall. I think a good operator, a good community manager will go, well, Anne Marino and Amy, they'd be good speed. I'll sit them down beside each other. That's again coming back to your point. If the lady in South Africa, I know it's different because she operates in her own office spaces, but it comes back to that getting to know the people first. There's always going to be a need for humans in spaces like Coworking spaces, because it's fully humans and we're tribal beasts. So, you know what I mean?
100%. AI, it's about leveraging AI so that you're free to do the stuff we should have been doing all along. It's like processes and tech have started to own us nearly. And because systems don't always work the way they should, we're after getting into these really gnarly processes that didn't grow in a clean way with the business. And we maybe didn't review them enough as we went because we were too busy running a space, and all your time's being consumed and you're not getting to put time and energy into building the stuff that only a human can build, So it's a huge opportunity, I think. Really frees you up. A client who I was speaking to gave me the example of somebody coming in to the business for one day, found the space through an event, came in for a hot desk day, right? And she made the connection with somebody 5 desks over who's on a dedicated desk, who that person, they ended up doing business together, right? On an ongoing basis. Very, very common scenario. But each person actually said to her, there's no way we would have chatted because dedicated desks and hot desking, sometimes the hot deskers, knowing they're only going to be in the area for a day or so, might not want to bother people. But what a human experience that she was the only person in that situation who could have put those people in contact. And they, like, that kicked off who knows how much business and community and, you know, good vibes.
I've done it myself. I've actually gone, I remember running a space when I was running a space, and it was like, oh, I'm looking for someone to do a marketing for a project they had taken on, and they didn't have a marketing arm to their web dev agency. I was like, just talk to Brendan there. Brendan was like, sorry, quick intro, and walked away, and the lads ended up doing a bit of work together. And the thing is, you're right, like a lot of us will go in and put our headphones on in a place where we don't know people, and you can't just assume that everybody's extrovert enough to kind of introduce themselves and all that kind of stuff as well.
Of course, you've got your platform then, where you've got your user profiles, and that's something obviously you have in Baseworx plug, where you can have your profile and pop that your hobbies are triathlon and chat to whoever did the last Ironman beside you. But aside from that, it's only your hub manager can actually walk around and say, do you know who he is or she is, like, And I think that's really unique.
To be honest, that was a feature that I asked the guys to build, because like that, I'll be honest, I'm the wrong side of 30, and names and faces, they don't click together like they used to. And the amount of times I've been going, your coffee break would sync with somebody, and they're like, hi, good to see you, bud, pal, mate, anything but their name. And then you can go in, look at the system, go, that's Paul. Why did I think his name was David? so the next time you can
true
see
community.
That's true community.
Who's your man?
That's tech supporting community, Amory.
So to wrap up, okay, I think couple of key things are coming up for us here. I think your community already exists. I don't think you can shape culture as much as you think you can. You just need to kind of notice it, and there are a few key points where you can pay attention. That's who's coming into the space day dot, checking how it's evolving, how long people are spending there, if they're on contract with owned door offices and things like that, keeping a view of that and how it's lending itself to the culture in the community. I suppose the role of community in that it's not always as light and fluffy. Some people think maybe we even started out in that place ourselves, but like it's actually a really leverageable or valuable kind of aspect to a space in differentiating it and making sure that you've got a nice pipeline of clients coming in, and that people are always saying, like if we mention where we work to anybody, people go, God, I hear great things about that place. That's always the feedback. I hear great things about that, and people do talk. So if they're having a positive experience, people are very likely to chat about it. Where are you working? Oh, I get to live here in the place I want to live, and I get to work in a really great space. So segmenting, being clear about who you're serving, staying nice and close, freeing yourself up with processes and systems so that you have the capacity to stay nice and close to your audience and stay in touch. And then just let the space do the work. Everyone's an adult. Let them come in. If people are going to bond and get on, they're going to do it. I don't think any operator should be staying awake at night worried that they're not creating enough culture either. I think it has to kind of just flow and let it evolve in a natural way,
Let it evolve, but I think the key piece on top of that is always keep you got 2 ears and one mouth. You should be listening twice as much as you talk. So
100%. So if you had to give people one kind of practical step, if they're worried about their community right now, if their space maybe is underutilized and they're thinking, God, is community the issue? How would they know? What should they look out for from your experience as an operator?
If they're on it, they'll be talking to their community. They'll be talking to their clients. They should have an insight. If you're at a position where you don't know why, start talking. Start talking to the people that do come in. Why
Get closer.
Find what you're doing right and do more of it.
Run polls. WhatsApp group with an anonymous poll is always a good job. Send out an email if you're not the kind. Yeah. But I think most people are pretty sociable if they're running a space.
Yeah, well, look, to just say the point again, if you don't know where your space isn't working, start talking to people.
Excellent. Perfect. Nice one. Thanks, Mil Graham. Catch us for the next episode of Flex That Worx, powered by Baseworx. Thanks for tuning in to Flex That Worx. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss our next episode. Connect with us on LinkedIn, watch the full episode on YouTube, and you can explore free tools and resources over at baseworx.co. This is Flex That Worx, powered by Baseworx, here to help you scale your workspace, making it simpler and less stressful.